Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. We're going vlog style today, so I'm not going to be as well polished, but I think a little variety is probably good. Today we're going to cover total costs to set up this Red Sea Reefer G2 350. This is actually part 2 or phase 2 of all my gear and the costs. You'll need to check out my phase 1 equipment video here, which it runs through the costs and equipment that were needed to stock the tank with its first fish. After I got that first fish added, what was needed to get this tank SPS ready? So any video I reference, check it out in the description below. I have a video on almost everything I've added to this tank. Now that I have this tank stocked a little and it's 6 months or so old, and I've got plans for a bunch of acropora in the real near future, I have finished all my equipment. So I've got all the equipment, I think. I'm pretty confident that I'm at a good stopping point gear-wise. In short, I have the gear I need for this tank to be SPS ready. And I mean, it never really stops. There's always things you need, things you'll pick up, like extra filter socks, maybe a frag rack. I'm going to need to get something like that, some frag plugs, coral cutters, maybe a little reactor, stuff like that down the road. But for the most part, I'm kind of good with the bigger stuff. So I think I have everything I need to take this tank to maturity and evolve to an SPS dominant reef. So let's go through the rest of my equipment and figure out the total amount of money I've spent to get this tank set up and finished. I'll be honest, it's much more than I was planning on spending. And keep in mind, I won't factor in any costs associated with livestock. So no cost for fish and some of the corals I have at this point. So just kind of gear and equipment, things to get up and running. Now, when phase 1 of the build had finished, I had spent a total of $6,035.49. So that is kind of where we are left off at, right? And that included, tank and stand, which I got on Black Friday, so I did save quite a bit of money on this Red Sea Reefer G2. That included lighting, auto top-off upgrades, so the reservoir and the auto top-off system, heaters, test kits, RODI unit, fish food, magnet cleaners. I got a gravel vac and all that, dead rock, so this rock to start, super glue, fish nets, refractometer, salt, you name it, etc. Everything to get you going to where you can put a fish in the tank. Now, let's talk about phase 2, or what I've added since then to become SPS ready. So first up is this new lid. This lid's by Reef. I'll link to a video I made on this lid here. You can check it out. Before, I had on the DIY lid by Red Sea. And I say DIY because you kind of have to build it yourself, and I wasn't great at it. So that may be why it didn't last long for me. But the netting wasn't tight. It was a little ski-wampus. It didn't fit well. So I spent a little bit more money and picked up that lid by Reef. And that lid was $339 added to my total. Now next up, beyond this lid, is this little mini Vornado, I think it's called, fan. It's summer here, right? It's warm here in Utah where I live. And I have to have this fan, blowing a little air across the water here to cool it down. I'm running metal halides T5, so we've got some heat. I'm in a basement, so it's much cooler down here. But to keep my tank 78, 77, 79 degrees, this fan has to kick on periodically. The Vornado fan was 25 bucks. And after that fan, I've picked up this Eheim fish feeder. This has been on the market for years. I've had many of them. I had to tape it. I run little pellets, and these things just feed too much. So I taped the hole a little bit and cover it up. But I picked this up because I went on my first vacation after owning this tank a few weeks back. I was gone for over a week, and it did a good job. Drops pellets down in this little cup so they don't go over into the overflow, and kept the fish fed. And that was $36. I have all my prices here below me. It's 36 bucks for the Eheim fish feeder. So we've already added almost $400 or $500 just with those three things. Next up was this dehumidifier I picked up for $179 off Amazon. My basement, it was getting a little muggy in the spring. I like to keep the humidity below 55, around 50-ish. In the spring it was getting pretty high, and that thing kicks on quite a bit. And that helps. That keeps the mugginess down here. And so I just felt like I needed to pick that up since I'm in a basement and I'm kind of enclosed. So that was 179 bucks. Bunch of little things. These gloves. These are shoulder length gloves. They're going to keep your armpits dry. So I picked those up when I could put my hands in the tank and fiddle around with things. Those are 18 bucks. I picked up this little, what do you call these? These veggie magnets, or you put your seaweed on. This is a magnet you clip on and feed your tangs. That was 20 bucks. I've got a bunch of coral foods I've actually picked up. Some LPS pellets, Phyto Feast, etc. I just did a video on my recipe for foods that I feed my corals that I think really does help them grow fast. Check it out here. That'll be in the description below. Had to pick up a bunch of those foods. That sent me back nearly $65 to pick up that food. To prevent slime in my RODI reservoir, I had someone comment on one of my videos that they threw a little Sicce nano pump in there, so I picked up one of those pumps. Sits in the bottom of the reservoir, keeps the water moving a little bit there. That was $42. Below that, a leak detector alarm. I have a video, I'll link to it here. You can check it out. I had a little accident. I won't dive into details. You can learn more about that in that video. But basically I had a little flood, and I picked up that leak alarm to help me not hopefully have that problem again. And those were 30 bucks. I got one there and I got one behind the tank. Okay, next up, let's get into under the cabinet here. I picked up this slide out Red Sea panel. You can mount stuff to it and it slides out. But what you don't realize, or what I didn't realize, is everything's tied up with cords, so you have to have a little slack so you can actually slide this out. And I haven't done a great job, but it's a nice little panel to mount your stuff to. That was $117. I also picked up a Neptune dose to dose my two-part, my alkalinity and calcium. I actually picked that up used off Reef to Reef for 200 bucks. These dosing containers to store the two-part, again used Reef to Reef, 75 bucks. And then I picked up a Red Sea dosing kit for $32. That came with the tubing and some of these clamps that you can, hook the tubes to and kind of keep things a little organized. I've got some B-Ionic two-part. That's what I'm using for now. It's a little spendy. It was $39. I've used this before. I typically will use this until my corals grow enough where I'm consuming so much two-part that I have to make it and to go the BRS route and save a little money. But we do B-Ionic for now. We just don't dose a lot yet, right? Things are too small. Things are growing in. What else? So I picked up an additional ring camera. This is nice to have while I'm on vacation. I can look at the sump, make sure the water isn't splashing or anything going crazy, or the skimmer. If it's overfilling, I can look at that with my camera and then turn the skimmer off with my Apex while I'm out for vacation. So that's kind of a peace of mind thing. That was $100. I picked up a 25 watt UV sterilizer here. I've got a video on that installation and that review. I'll link to it here. Again, check out the description below. And that was $220 used. So I hope that keeps the dinos away. To run that UV, I've got a Sicce 2.0 pump down there that pushes water through that UV and keeps things flowing, and that was $85. And then since I bought the UV used, I had to get a new UV bulb. So 25 watt replacement bulb, and again, $71. So we're adding up quite a bit of money already, guys. Skimmer. So I didn't have a skimmer at first. Nutrients are so low, they're still quite low. But this is a Reef Octopus 110 Triple S skimmer. It's a little undersized. It was on sale for $231.99. I don't feel like I need to run a big skimmer. I always have trouble in the last 10 to 15 years of having too low of nutrients. I think skimmers are almost too good. So I bought one that's undersized, that's going to give me a little more room and allowed me to fit my UV sterilizer and maybe a reactor and some other things in the sump here. I do have a refugium light. It was a Kessel with the gooseneck, excuse me. It was an H160, I think. It's over here. This guy. I don't have it mounted on my refugium. I don't have Kato in there. The Kato just died off, first of all, so I'm holding off on Kato. I'm going to wait till the tank gets a little older. But I didn't like the light because of how much light bleed there was. I was getting algae growing in the skimmer and just algae growing throughout the sump. So I actually, and again, that Kessel, that was expensive for me. That was $317, that Kessel H160. I check out this video here. This is a video on how to set up a refugium, and I show this light a little bit more in detail, the Kessel anyway. So you can check that out. But if you need help setting up a refugium, that's a great video. Now, instead of the Kessel, I picked up this waterproof Tunzi 10K light. I actually picked up two. I'll run two once I add some Kato back here, Chato, whatever you call it. I always call it Kato. But these things are waterproof. I can keep it real low to the water level and not a lot of light spill when you can keep it that low. So I'm hoping that will keep the algae and other junk growing, throughout the sump. So that Tunzi 10K LED light, that was $73 on sale. But I picked up two of those. And last but not least, what else have I added? Oh, yes, some of you guys never experienced this before because I'm kind of old school, but I had to pick up some new T5 bulbs. I picked up ATI bulbs. I love ATI bulbs. Great par, Blue Plus, probably the best bulb. So a couple of those bulbs and a couple of the True Actinics. So kind of old school, but this gives me a nice dawn to dusk look. So I love that. I get plenty of par from my radiums, from the metal halides. And these T5 bulbs, they came with a fixture. I don't know how old they are. But as I prepare to add some acros and some more light sensitive or light loving corals, I figured, shoot, let's get some new T5 bulbs. Okay guys, well, there you have it. With everything I just went through, those are all new additions since my phase 1 video. We're at a subtotal for just that latest equipment and products, feeding clips, magnets, stuff like that. We're at a subtotal of $2,411. I guess a good chunk of change, right? So now the grand total for what I've spent to get this Red Sea Reefer G2 350 tank set up, I'm at $8,447.48.